That's not the story?
That's not the story. That music is ageless. It's timeless. You know, that's history making music.
Okay.
Just like being impeached twice
And making history.
with the same lawyer. Rudy is like, just give me one more chance, coach. Let me
Throw me
back
in the
in
ring.
the game.
Throw me in the ring. I'm going to win it this time.
Oh, God. All right, folks. It's the Power Hour brought to you each and every morning here at WURD 900, 96.1 FM in the city of Philadelphia. Also at wordradio.com. Eventually moved into the App Store. Check us out, WURD. Download the app. Then we got really hip with the times, went on to social media. Unlike other people, we can still be found on Facebook and YouTube. We choose not to go on Snapchat. But if we wanted to, we'd be there too.
Can you
Again,
do this on Snapchat? I didn't think you could do it on Snapchat.
I don't know. I'm just making it up.
Okay.
I'm just saying we could be on Snapchat for snaps,
Okay.
whatever that means.
I don't know what that means.
It'd be very short, I guess. Maybe we should do the show. We should do an entire show as TikTok.
Can you do that?
I don't know.
I don't know either. That's why I'm asking. I don't know.
Now, see, you start off saying it's because we're old. Now we're really sounding like it. Folks, sitting across from me in his rocking chair. I can see it from my rocking chair here. Is Bishop Dwayne David Royster.
And sitting across from me is the Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler.
And
Walker in a minute.
Yes. Well, if I have a walker, it's going to have two wheels like a motorcycle. I'm rocking on twos. You're walking on twos. And holding it together is Miss Kwesa. What's up, Kwesa?
Good morning. Doing well. How are you?
It's all good.
Kwesa is not old. We should say that and be very clear about that. She's taking care of the old men out here. That's really what it is.
As some people will say, she's a millennium.
Oh, my God.
Not a millennial. She's a millennium. Like the Millennium Falcon.
Yes.
Oh, boy, folks, so much to talk about today. And really, we could just talk about literally one thing if we wanted to, the entirety of the show, and it would not get old. The United States National Guard is holding down Washington, D.C. The images are quite striking. I mean, really, it is, I don't know. I mean, it's a chilling image to think that this is what we've come to. We've always been this, but it's always been kind of simmering underneath, and, nobody's ever really acknowledged it. But Donald Trump in 4 years has been able to somehow sew together a group of the most hateful parts of American society.
Yep.
And people who really, at the end of the day, hate each other. I'm sure that some of the neo-Nazis and fascists don't really like that the Boogaloo Boys have black folk, and a lot of the Boogaloo Boys are not necessarily it's not even about race for them. They're kind of like extremists of the Tea Party persuasion, if you will.
Right.
Then you got the Proud Boys. Who knows what that's about? I mean, so, at the end of the day, should they win, the next fight would be them fighting off each other to see who's the king of the hill. They don't like each other, but they are united in their ultimate hatred of most of us.
Right.
Make of that what you will. And so yesterday, in reaction to that, the Congress took the unusual step of a pretty fast impeachment, the House, and Donald Trump has been impeached for the second time, making history. And he is, so the impeachment now lays in the House and it waits to go over to the Senate. It's not going to happen before the inauguration. And the question becomes, does it ever get there? It doesn't have to go there, just so you know. It can literally just kind of die if you're no parliamentary procedures. It's not necessarily this, but kind of dies for lack of a second, if you will, right? It's kind of like a motion made, but never goes anywhere. I know that's not really what happens, but just trying to help you kind of understand it.
So the real story in all this, though, is that only 10 Republicans voted for the impeachment. And Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is considered the leader of the squad, the extreme left wing of the House of Representatives, Democrats in the House of Representatives, actually did a video yesterday, and she said something which I thought was very powerful. She said she never wants to hear from Republicans again about being in support of police, because if they supported police, the death of 2 police officers, quite a few, not hundreds, but quite a few others injured as a result of this insurrection in the Capitol, then they would have gone and fully supported the impeachment of Donald Trump. But she said point blank, it's not about police. It's just an excuse and a prop for them to try to make points with people, because they allowed Donald Trump to get away with this, and they know full well, what was going on and what he was doing. So,
hey, bro,
interesting moment.
I hate to tell you, the police ain't for the police. There's some cops in the crowd.
Well, a lot of cops in the crowd, I'm sure.
Seven SEPTA police were down there. Now, again, we don't know if these cops were inside the Capitol, but you can't convince me otherwise that within the Capitol, in the crowd that led to, the death of one of their fellow officers, that some of them weren't in there. Right. At this point, look, to not have them come forward and at least say publicly, right, that I got caught up, I can't believe that any action that I did may have in some way. I'm not. Right. You don't have to take ownership in a way that gets you caught up legally, right? But to at least acknowledge that I went too far, we went too far. One of our officers in blue went down, and that's on us, this entire crowd. Right. But for the fact that they're not saying that, it tells you as well that, hell, forget Donald Trump and the Republicans. Cops are not for cops. That's also right. BS. The FOP, nobody made more of this law and order crap over the last 4 years in the wake of, just horrific incidents from Trayvon Martin to Mike Brown. This even goes back before 4 years.
That's right.
Locally, Brandon Tate Brown, David Jones, and everyone else. The cops are under siege. Our morale is low. Nobody cares for us. Woe is me. You got people in the suburbs going out putting signs up that we support our police. Hell, the cops don't support the cops.
Right.
Because if the cops supported the cops, McNesby, president of Lodge 5 in Philadelphia, the FOP, would be beating his bully pulpit the way he would do if this was a Philadelphia cop who had been killed, or if this were a Capitol police officer who had been killed by a group who had gone there to the Capitol to march for the rights of Black people. So the fact that you are mute in this moment tells me that you don't care about cops. Right. It's all a facade. It's all a charade. It's all a game. This is all politics.
Yep.
Gotta be kidding me.
And in the meantime, we are still dealing with COVID-19 that's hitting epic proportions across the country. But because we're worried about Donald Trump, well, not worried about, because we're, still dealing with all this Donald Trump crap, we're not really dealing with the COVID crisis.
Oh, well, come on, man. I don't care about that either. This is all about raw power, right, at the end of the day. And it's a shame that, that this is where it's come to. But the rest of us, meanwhile, have to deal with the fallout of this. So right now, yesterday, I just want to say the impeachment for a moment, because I'm not sure how closely you followed it. Yesterday was a bit of a challenge for me. I had some things I had to do at the church, so I couldn't get into it the way I wanted, and was kind of listening and watching the alerts. But what do you make of, so you said that there were only 10 Republicans, and Ocasio-Cortez was upset about that, but everything that I've heard is that that's the most bipartisan of all of the previous impeachments. Is that right?
It probably is, yeah. I would not doubt that. Usually the party in power does not vote to impeach the president. Again, the impeachment is nothing more than an indictment. Really, what we need is the trial in the Senate to really determine what happens. But the word was that if it had been a secret vote, there would have been more Republicans that would have voted for impeachment. But because it was a public vote, only 10 of them did that. And some of the 10, like, for example, Liz Cheney voted, and she's the number 3 person in the House. She's the House Minority Whip. She voted to do that. Now, her dad's Dick Cheney. Her dad can't stand Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So, there are Republicans out there that do not support Donald Trump. They're Republicans, not Trumpicans. And so, those 10 were bold and spoke up, and they're also probably in much more conservative, truly Republican seats than they are in Trump areas. So, but they were saying there were a lot more that would have done it had it been a secret vote and not a public vote.
Well, what's interesting is, so you brought Liz Cheney up, and that's where I was trying to go with this.
Mm-hmm.
So, of the 10 Republicans that voted, Liz Cheney came out looking pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in her own party right now, she's looking pretty bad. They
Mm-hmm.
want to the caucus wants to strip her of that position you just mentioned. So she's the number 3 ranking Republican in the minority.
Yeah, I'm sorry. She's the caucus chair. Tawanda just corrected me on that, right? She's
Right.
the Republican caucus chair. Yes.
So they want to. They're making a move on her, trying to strip her of it. They need to get a majority of the caucus, and it may happen. Now you got to believe she knew there was going to be blowback, right? But I mean, look, dude, Liz Cheney is a lesbian in the Republican Party who holds office. This ain't the first time she got pushed back. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
she knows how to fight back. She knows what it is to have the party against you. And she also knows what it is to stand alone because it's your principle.
Mm-hmm.
I got to say, and I hate to say it, but man, one day I think she's going to end up being the president.
Could be. I mean, here's the funny thing about Liz Cheney, right? So prior to Donald Trump, her father was considered the Darth Vader of the Republican Party.
Oh my God.
Right?
Can you believe it? I mean, I'd be
want to
glad
talk about
take
pure
Liz
evil,
Cheney
right?
over Donald Trump any day now.
I mean, that's really bad.
Dun, 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 dun,
I mean,
dun.
Dick Cheney was like no joke, man. People were scared to death of him.
Oh my God.
Just because of the way he handled business. And, I mean, quite as it's kept, people have really said Dick Cheney was running the country during George Bush's presidency. And the fact that they would go after Liz Cheney suggests that they are more afraid of Donald Trump than they are afraid of Dick Cheney. And Dick Cheney actually is a smart guy who's got his wits about him and is probably just as still dominant a force even in his retirement from national politics, even at this point in time. So I don't know. I wouldn't be messing with Liz too much.
Well, let me just say, so she comes from a powerfully connected family. Hear me out. Tawanda says, wow, that escalated quickly. Liz Cheney for president. So again, when you're in a moment, no, we're not. But I'm just saying. But look, we are armchair political analysts. That's what we do. We're the two dudes in the barbershop. That's all we talk about. We come in, we sit there in chairs, we talk politics all day. People are like, are you gonna ever get your hair cut? I'm like, have you seen me? I have no hair to cut. I'm just here to talk politics. That's all we come to do, right? And drink up the free coffee. And so Bernita says, nope, never. But hear me out, y'all. Hear me out. I know you don't want to hear this. Now, I mean, Democrats can't hold the seat forever. It's ebb and flow. It always goes back and forth. But listen to me, please. When you're in the middle of a war and you have gotten to such a feverish pitch as we are right now,
right?
10 years from now, the last thing anybody's going to want is a Donald Trump type of person, right? I mean, because this is not done. It's got some more years to go politically. Now, culturally, it will never go away. It never has. These are the same folk who've been fighting the lost cause from the Civil War. So you ain't going to ever get rid of them, okay? They are as American pie. The question is, will they always have the main stage, right? And so can they continue another 10 years without their standard bearer being in power? I don't know. But I do think that, 10 years from now, you're going to be looking for different kind of candidates. It always happens this way, right? I mean, 10 years ago, the field of Democrats that we had, the person who came on top may have looked totally different than Joe Biden. But Joe Biden was selected not necessarily because he was the best of all the candidates who offered themselves up. He was chosen because he was the best for the moment. He could beat this monster we were facing, and he did. Now, 10 years from now, I'm telling you, like I said, you watch her, You look at her leadership style, you look at how she carries herself, how she comports herself, how she presents herself. She has a lot of upside. And if I were Democrats, I would not take her for granted, because the Republican Party as it is in shambles today will not always be so. It will reform itself and get itself together. And a decade from now, maybe even 2 decades from now, hell, you can run for president at 80 nowadays. She got a long time. So maybe I'm off on my time, Tawanda. Maybe it's like 30 years from now, Liz Cheney will be running and might get it. I'm just saying, watch out for her.
Yeah.
Aunt said she'll get it after Stacey Abrams.
No, actually, I mean, well, it's actually it's interesting to think about that, because I wonder, would the Republicans put in office a queer legislator, right? But I think there's a possibility they could, especially coming from her pedigree, right?
Well, times have changed.
Yeah.
Times
No,
have
I mean,
changed. Yeah.
I'm not fighting it. I'm just laying it out there, But I think you're right. They probably would do something to that effect. And I mean, I think the challenge is going to be is that everybody's going to act like Trump. The Republicans who really are contending are going to think they can act like Trump for the next few years.
Right.
And that's where the problem's going to be. Cruz and them, if Hawley stays in office, Hawley's getting a lot of pressure. Hawley's a senator from Missouri that was really pressing a lot of this. He's getting a lot of pressure right now. And they're also losing money left and right. Even Comcast has decided to stop giving money to these Republicans. So,
well, I'm really prayerful, seriously, that it doesn't take a very, very tragic event to stop them from acting this way.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, historically, that's usually proven to be the case, though, right? That it takes something where it's just so horrific, it's like, oh my God. I mean, we think that the Capitol event last week would have been it. But, Donald Trump was kind of at the head of that. And he's right. He said it in his campaign that he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and get away with it. He was not lying. But again, me, I maintain that he's that dude in high school who can literally do anything. Goes to the principal's office and you leave and he's sitting at the principal's desk and the principal's sitting on the other side. Do not ask me what that's about. I don't understand it. But whatever the it is, he has got it in spades, and we may hate him for it, but it is not transferable. Yeah. His children do not have it. Mm-hmm. Hawley does not have it. Good God, Cruz doesn't have anything, let alone it. I'm like, dude, you're out here working for the dude who called your wife ugly? Man, you're the most disgusting person I know. You doing that? Somebody call your wife ugly and you ever team up with them? What kind of self-respect do you have? Just because you want to be president, that tells us everything we know about you. No character. So it's not a shtick that can be passed on. We got to go to break, but we can talk about some of this local stuff too. But hey, man, Donald Trump being Donald Trump is mad at Giuliani for not getting him off, and now he's going all total Trump and company. He ain't gonna pay Rudy.
Oh, wow.
What is more Donald Trump than not paying a contractor who's done the work, and then you say at the end, I'm dissatisfied with the product. I ain't paying you. See my new lawyer. Yeah. We got to take a break on that note. Don't work for Donald Trump, people. You're probably not going to get paid. We'll be right back.
Happy New Year, Philly. It's Solomon Jones. The pandemic of 2020 blew the roof off of life as we know it and forced us to make radical decisions once thought impossible. Many parents and grandparents turned to the option of a public cyber education. In thousands of instances, they sought assistance from the one true pioneer and industry leader in public cyber education, Commonwealth Charter Academy. Visit ccaeducate.me and exercise your right to choose a safe, hassle-free, student-focused learning environment your kids deserve. CCA delivers elite online instruction streamed directly to the safety and comfort of your living room. They provide a laptop and headset along with internet connectivity that includes financial assistance, all at no cost to families. CCA has been the gold standard in school choice for nearly 20 years. Visit ccaeducate.me and ring in 2021 with a 5-star learning experience. Again, that's ccaeducate.me.
Are you tired of eating the same thing day after day? Is ordering takeout starting to get a little old? If so, then give Premium Nutrition Meals a try. With Premium Nutrition Meals, you get to select new entrees each week from several different menus, all chef-crafted, freshly prepared, and delivered right to your door. Just go to PremiumNutritionMeals.com to order to earn rewards today. WURD listeners receive $10 off orders of 6 meals or more. Enter code PREMIUMWORD at checkout.
The WURD Radio Newsletter, keeping you informed, engaged, and connected. Sign up by visiting wordradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and type your email address under Connect with Us. You'll receive the latest information on WURD Radio, messages from our president and CEO, Sarah Lomax Reese, exclusive articles and multimedia content, and resources. Stay informed with the WURD Radio Newsletter.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster and Mark Kelly Tyler. We are here Monday through Fridays from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. to bring you the latest in news happenings around Philadelphia and, of course, our opinions. And we always have a lot of opinions. We've been talking about the impeachment that occurred yesterday and the possibility of the rise of Liz Cheney for being a real Republican versus the Trumpicans that are out there. Although she has voted with Trump on numerous occasions over the last few years. But, you know, she is the Republican caucus chair in the House. And we should also mention that Madeline Dean from Madeline Dean's from up in the Lehigh Valley area, Congresswoman, will be one of the people that will be handling the impeachment case being brought before the Senate sometime whenever Mitch McConnell decides, or we finally get it turned over and it goes into Chuck Schumer's hands, and they begin the process of the trial of Donald Trump for the second time. Let me say that again, the second time. If democracy actually worked, there would have only been one trial. But because democracy didn't work, we now have a second trial going on. And let me just say,
what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? How did democracy not work?
It didn't work because there's supposed to be checks and balances, right. And there was an alignment of too deep with the Senate during the first trial that they just blocked the votes from happening, so Trump could not be found guilty. That's what I'm saying.
But how's that democracy not working?
It's not working.
How? Democracy.
You and I get those arguments all the time. I think it's failure democracy. Democracy is supposed to be about checks and balances, and the checks and balances are not in place. There's the executive, which is co-equal with the legislative, which is co-equal with the judiciary, and they're all supposed to check each other and hold each other in tension.
But did they cheat during the impeachment last time?
Did they cheat?
Yes. Did they cheat?
They did not even want to hear the case.
But I'm asking a question that the House sent over the charges.
Look. It's like this. A black man in the South in the 1800s gets put before a trial. He shows up, what's supposed to be a bail hearing, and walks out and gets convicted. They didn't hear the case. And it's the same thing that happened basically.
Not the same thing.
It is. It's just the reverse. It's the same principle. We don't even want to hear the case. We don't even want to deal with this. He's not guilty. Only one Republican voted to make him guilty, Mitt Romney, and that was it. Like, come on, man. This is this is not democracy working.
All right. So see this. Listen, why I'm saying this. This is why I'm pushing back on this, because to me, it seems like that's the argument that folk are making on the other side, which is democracy ain't working because Trump didn't win. Like, no, democracy worked.
I'm not talking about the winning. I never fought him winning. I was but I never fought him winning.
That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that democracy is this, that it is we are governed by elected officials. And so if your side gets more elected officials in office, you get to do more things. And so the reason that, Donald Trump survived impeachment, just like the way Bill Clinton survived impeachment, is not because, neither of them should not have been impeached. Now, I'm not trying to equate the two.
They're not even remotely close.
They're not. But I am saying this, that both survived by virtue of the same. The Senate, as a result of controlling the Senate, they were able to survive. So that's all. That is democracy working, right? I mean, and then democracy. So what happened with democracy after that? Trump survives the impeachment, but we voted him out because we said, okay, fine, we can't impeach you out. We're gonna vote you out, and we're gonna flip Georgia. We're gonna flip Arizona. We're gonna win back Pennsylvania, win back Michigan, win back Wisconsin. I say democracy triumphed overall, in spite of how mad people are with their guns and their toys.
Yeah, I disagree with you on that. Just vehemently, the process should have taken place much sooner. They had conditions to be able to impeach him shortly after he got elected because of the emoluments clause, because all his financial dealings are still caught up. He's made millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars off the federal government while he was in office, which is actually against the law. So I have deep trouble with this. But they have not tried him on that. They have not brought that to the table. I mean, there's things that he's doing that are just absolutely illegal. So in my opinion, democracy has failed woefully because this man has sat in office for 4 years, and they won't even get him out before his term ends. They'll impeach him after the fact.
That's why we got him out. We got him out the paint. Democracy prevailed. And in that trial, yes, it did. It worked.
No, democracy did not. It did not.
No, Wayne, come on.
Democracy is forever damaged as a result of this presidency, and we have lost our moral authority not only here in this country but around the world because democracy has failed. It did not work. It did not work in the way that it was supposed to work.
So if democracy didn't work, right now Donald Trump would be president because they stormed the Capitol last week. The Congress got afraid, flipped it, and just broke the Constitution and said, no, sorry, Biden, we were wrong. You're right. The election was stolen. It was fraudulent. Here you go, sir. Take another 4 years. I mean, it is messy, I admit. And it pisses you off at times, I admit. He should have he should have been impeached for any number of reasons. In fact, let's just be honest, he should have never been elected.
That's
right?
Correct.
I mean, mocking, differently abled people should have disqualified him. He should have been disqualified by taking a full-page ad out saying the Central Park 5 should, be executed and then not retracting it once he found out that they were innocent. I mean, look, he should have never been president of anything, let alone Trump Corporation, or he's run that in the ground. And by the way, glad to see the PGA saying we're not playing golf with you anymore. That's gonna really hurt him.
It took 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years with him having his fingers on the button to a nuclear arsenal that could have destroyed the world over and over and over again. I mean, think about this for a minute. The days after he lost the election, he wanted to nuke Iran, and his staff had to talk him down from nuking Iran. It is a failure of democracy, period. In terms of me, it's a failure of democracy. This man should have never been president for more than 5 minutes before his behind got thrown out of the White House and sent back up to New York.
My God, where do I begin with this?
Look, you can feel free to fight with it, but the reality is it didn't work. He got elected. He got newly elected. I get him that because people in America are ignorant and they're caught up with celebrity, right? So that's part of the problem. Yes. But then the other piece of it is that when we began to realize, and people realized even before he got elected, that there was going to be issues with his presidency, he shouldn't have been in the office longer than the first year. Shouldn't have been. Just should not have been. And if the legislative branch had done their job, he wouldn't have been in there more than a year.
And you know what? Because they failed to. So listen, what I'm saying is this, is that I hear you, and I agree. Lois says on Facebook, we did not have the checks and balances we thought were in place. This is what I would say to that. We had the checks and balances. The system itself is there, but it is only as good as the people who are in place, right? So the people who are in place did not have the moral courage to do it. They were afraid of their own jobs. They are literally telling people right now the reason that they didn't vote yesterday publicly to impeach is not because they don't think he should be impeached, but they are afraid. Why? They're afraid that people will come to their house and kill them. They are literally afraid of that. And I get it. They're afraid that they'll be voted out of office and lose their job. I get it. And so, but do you think Liz Cheney wasn't afraid and the other 9 weren't afraid and all the Democrats who voted for it weren't afraid on some level that there may be some blowback? But it calls for moral courage, right? Did you think that this was going to be an easy job? And I think that's what it is. Some people thought I could get elected to Congress, go get this fat check, the pension, and it's all good. But sometimes you're going to be called to do things. You send soldiers off to war, United States Congress, to risk their lives for this country, and many don't come back home. They come back in a body bag. And if you're going to be bold enough to vote to send someone off to fight, to be killed for this country potentially, then you ought to be bold enough to put your life on the line to do what's right. It's cowardice. But the reason I say democracy worked to bring it back is this, that the checks and balances are in place. So a part of the checks and balances in a democracy is this: when you fail to do your job, people will vote you out. When we started this experiment, Donald Trump had the presidency, he had the House, and he had the Senate. Now the Republicans have none. In 4 years, they've been eviscerated. And that is a part of democracy, saying, you don't check yourself, we're going to check you. And now it's up to Biden and to Schumer and to Pelosi. And again, it is an ebb and flow. It is a dance that goes back and forth. And I think that as messy as it is, even with troops now sleeping in the Capitol, as awful as that side is, that it is also proof that this fragile experiment is on some level still working.
I think we witnessed in this the last 4 years the weaknesses of the experiment.
Yeah.
And in my estimation, those weaknesses put the world at risk. And in my estimation, as a result of that, that's a failure. It took too long. It just took too long to be able to do anything to move him out. They knew he was sinister. They knew he was evil. They knew he was not the right person for the job. They had just cause to be able to go after him. I mean, even in the first trial that they did, they only went after him around a very limited scope. Even this one is very limited in scope as well, in terms of what they did. I think if they had gone wider the first time around, they would have had many more things to be able to impeach him on. Now, I don't know that the Republicans would have done it anyway, other than Mitt Romney. Maybe Lisa Murkowski, who is now going to become an independent, is talking about doing. But nevertheless, I just think that there was just failures all the way around. The courts are now packed, and he did that intentionally with people who are not qualified to be on the judiciary. He's packed the Supreme Court. Now we're going to have to figure out how to do the Supreme Court. And the Senate and others were complicit in that because it was Mitch McConnell that would not let President Obama nominate Merrick Garland. Well, he nominated him, but would not let him have a hearing to be able to become the next Supreme Court justice in the U.S. Supreme Court. I mean, there's just failures all the way around. It's actually very discouraging in many ways. And I just think that it just showed that our system is not as foolproof as we think it is, and that autocrats and dictators can arise. I mean, for basically 4 years, Donald Trump was a dictator. You know, he was a dictator, and that is not the way the democratic process is supposed to work.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's why he's voted out. People chose to reject it. I mean, he couldn't even hold. He lost 5 states that he won.
He lost the election by 120,000 votes. That's it. In 5 states, 120,000 votes.
And he won the election by about the same margin, right? I mean,
he won it by 77,000 votes.
Yeah. So, I mean, right. So not much. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, and so, listen, I mean, this is, and I know it feels like there's been a tearing at the soul of our country. And I, honestly, man, if he had jumped in the front of that crowd going in the Capitol, I don't know what would have happened. I mean, seriously, I really don't know what would have happened, but it didn't happen, thankfully. And as a result, we're still here. I mean, this is governing and keeping the country together is really hard, as I think we all are starting to really see. And we haven't, the country's been through these kind of moments before. We just haven't lived through it. And so we've read about it. I mean, I got to believe that a civil war is probably a little bit more intense than this for 4 years, shooting and killing your cousins. and coming out of that thinking like, well, this thing is screwed. This ain't gonna never work. And somehow here we are 150 plus years later. Man, somebody said, I think it must have been Ant. No, he should have, I'm gonna read into Ant's comment. He should have been impeached for Trump University. Trump University should have impeached him. You're a terrible president. This diploma is worthless.
And let me go back to this though. I think Robert Garland made a point that's really important too. He said gerrymandering has to be addressed. I mean, part of the reason that it's actually interesting. There are more registered Democrats in this country than there are Republicans, but the House for the longest time and the Senate have been dominated by Republicans, and part of that is that the state legislatures tend to be controlled by Republicans, and so they control the drawing of the congressional and the state Senate and of the maps where people get to vote. And so they're gerrymandered so that Republicans always seem to have a majority in most of the districts. Yep. And this is what causes the problem too. So I totally agree with you, Robert Garland, that gerrymandering has to be addressed. And that's actually coming up this year. This is part of the problem with the census and why the census is all important, which is totally messed up right now. Because of what Trump has tried to do. I mean, this is the impact of what he has done will last for at least 20 years in this country. And the fact that they tried to discount certain people, they cut the census off early. Well, it was going late because of COVID, and then they cut it off early, just kind of arbitrarily. The courts got involved with that. It was a whole mess, and they still cut it off early. People are not counted. They're trying to discount people who are not citizens in our country so that they can try to rearrange these votes because if you take out the 11 million people who are undocumented, and if you take the numbers of people of color that are in prison and you count them in prison as opposed to in their home communities, you now are giving whiter areas more power. And the ability to be able to concentrate votes, and they tend to be more suburban and rural communities, which means we'll get more Republicans. I mean, major challenges here all the way around in terms of what he's doing. It's the destruction of American democracy as we know it. Maybe we should just let it burn to the ground and then create a new America with new rules that work for everybody equally.
You don't want that.
I don't know.
No, I know right now people are in their feelings. Trust me,
I'm in my feelings. Let's be honest,
You don't want to be all Mad Max, the original.
No, I don't. We don't want to do that. No.
Do you remember the original Mad Max, like from the 70s?
I'll give yes.
Before, like Tina Turner, the big Hollywood ones.
Right.
I mean, like just
Mad Max. Yes.
The originals when he was in Australia and stuff had burned down. It wasn't great. You know what I mean? Just the idea of like just trying to get from one little town to the next is like an adventure where you take your life into your hands. Look, we got to take a quick break. And yes, it is bad, folks, but let's pray that the fire don't come. We got to take a quick break, and we come back, we'll continue this conversation. And I do want to get your thoughts on the Police Oversight Board in Philadelphia that's coming. I have a very important question. Should those new commissioners be elected by the people, or should they be selected in some kind of way by council, by the mayor, whatever? This is going to be important because you're talking about democracy, and this is the ultimate expression of self-governance, being able to control your police department if you are black. We'll be right back on the other side of the break.
Just one more step. You got it.
You're doing great. This is the sound of a nationally ranked top rehabilitation hospital, home to the largest collection of robotics in the United States, where we continually exceed patient expectations. Because no injury is too severe or too minor for our care.
There you go.
This is the sound of success. Moss Rehab. Challenge accepted.
Tune in every Saturday at 4 p.m. for the Did You Know Show with host Bryant Green, right here on WURD 96.1 FM and 900 AM.
onWURD 2020 in Black. Check out the latest edition of the onWURD podcast, where WURD President and CEO Sarah Lomax Reese takes a look back at the racial justice uprisings around the nation in 2020. onWURD 2020 in Black. Download today wherever you listen to podcasts or visit wordradio.com.
onWURD 2020 in Black was produced with support from Resolve Philly, which provides ground for journalistic initiatives that challenges our industry to be more equitable, collaborative, and based in community voices and solutions.
Now, a traffic update on WURD Radio.
Good morning. This report sponsored by Discover. Looking at delays getting busy on 95 southbound from Cottman down through Bridge. Heavy through that construction. Again, Allegheny through Girard. You're slow northbound side. No issues there. Westbound Vine delays Parkway through the Schuylkill Expressway. Schuylkill westbound getting heavy from Bear Avenue through the Vine Expressway through that construction. Eastbound side, not bad. Again, Vine Expressway looks good. PA Turnpike, Blue Ridge 476 in pretty good shape. 55 northbound building a bit from Deptford into 42 now. Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year. It's amazing because Discover is accepted at 99% of places in the U.S. that take credit cards. Learn more at discover.com/yes. 2020 Nielsen Report. Limitations apply. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
Now, a WURD weather update. Here's NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
Clouds this morning, but the temperatures will still be climbing during the morning hours. By lunchtime, we'll be in the low 40s. Then sunshine takes over this afternoon, a high of 50 degrees. Increasing clouds overnight tonight, a low of 33 Friday morning. A mostly cloudy day tomorrow and dry during the day. But tomorrow night and early Saturday, rain will move through the area. Clearing out during the day on Saturday, but clouds will linger, a high of 44 Saturday afternoon. I'm NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley with your most accurate forecast. Count on it.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. Mark Kelly Tyler and Dwayne David Royster. We are all in this morning talking about the second impeachment and talking about democracy. Does it work? Does it not work? What's happening? Look, we're going to open up the phone lines here. Briefly, we're in our last segment, but it's going to be 215-634-8065.
Hold on.
And what did you say?
Hold on.
Oh, to go.
Do not make us regret this. Do not. If you think it's been a long time now, don't call here about Osama bin Laden's brother. Don't call here telling us, just come on now, look, we got important stuff. Do not blow it, y'all. Please continue. I'm sorry.
That's okay. 215-634-8065. 215-634-8065. All right. You want to bring folk in?
Yeah, let me just address something here. So maybe tomorrow we could get back to some of the D.C. stuff. And I think Will Megan pointed out something important, which is, and this will come out in the investigation later, but Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley out of Boston said that somebody tore all of the panic buttons out of her office, the entire unit, before the siege. And they were wondering, like, what's this about? Well, now we kind of know. And so we'll find out if that was just simply maintenance doing its job and this is just kind of ill-timed, or if this was something more sinister, like probably was. But again, that will come out. And so there's a lot of talk about people having maps, having, potential contact with Capitol Police and even members of Congress who helped them pull this off. Again, folks, listen, the good thing about next week when Donald Trump is no longer president is that you talking about people going to be singing like larks on a sunny morning. They'll be like, I want to tell. They told me to go tear the panic boxes out. And I said, that's not right. They said, you want your job? I said, yes. They said, tear it out. But now I want to tell. Who told you? That man. So it's going to come out in the wash. But we'll get back to that. But I do want to, this local piece, around policing. So if you need a local issue, we have voted to have our independent police oversight board. And when you got cops showing up in DC for this kind of stuff, you could have probably never come at a better time. Now, as we get ready to form it, it's not formed yet. It's a blank slate. Again, shout out to Councilman Curtis Jones for even putting this on the ballot. It has to be formed, and at some point there'll be things that'll come out to the public. But one of the big questions that's been on my mind consistently has been whether the board should be elected or appointed.
Yeah.
I think personally it should be elected, that the commissioners ought to come directly from the people, because then they'll be accountable to the people. The people can hold them accountable if they don't do their jobs. I think appointed puts us right back where we are right now. They're beholden to whoever puts them in their seat. That's just me. You may have a different opinion. I think you can make strong arguments for either side, but I want to just kind of at least drop that out there. And I don't know if you have thoughts about it before we go to the phones.
I do. A couple things. One, I do think they should be elected. Two, I think that they should be elected by area. So I know we've talked about this before, whether it's been based on the police districts or whatever, so they're representative from the various district areas or sections of the city that are done. And then I think they need to elect their chairperson from within them. So I totally agree with the elected piece. And I think we should also make a rule that they can't accept any PAC money to be able to run for office.
Wow.
Keep the FOP out of it, keep the other unions out of it, keep the Chamber of Commerce out of it. It's got to be all grassroots campaign to be able to win, and they've got to go knock doors and talk to people in their community. So
I like
that's my
that's
opinion.
strong. That's strong. That's really strong. Yeah. So, and I think, as you say, representative to, I think everybody in the city should have people to represent them, even the Northeast and the South and, Marconi area, whatever, because police patrol everywhere. If you have a mix like that, you'll at least have a board that's going to represent the interests of everyone in the city, and they'll be able to wrestle this stuff out. But I think ultimately they need to be in control of police policy and everything related to policing. That is the ultimate vision, that they will be a strong board, that when it's talking about the budget or anything else, you got to go to them. Now, that's going to take years to get there. This is a first and significant step, so I think how we set it up is extremely important. Will Mega says we need to kick Kenny out. Well, yeah, we had a chance. It was called an election. folk in Philly did what folk in Philly do. Well, the unions told me who to vote for. All right. I mean, I don't know how he got reelected, but, it is what it is. All right, Prince in Schuylkill. Prince is always a good caller. What's up, Prince?
Hey, good morning. How are you guys? I think
Doing great.
If you're going to have an election, then they should get paid. If you're going to appoint people, then they should not get paid. But you can't ask people to do a task of that magnitude and not pay them. So if you're going to make them campaign and run, then they should get a salary to do that job. The other issue I wanted to speak about is we need an organization, and I might say just power or some organization that gets the poor people the results that they're looking for. Since December 26th, they haven't gotten a stimulus. They haven't gotten any extra income. They're still living in people's properties and are unable to pay rent. So we need an OIC, a power, just somebody who speaks towards the Poor People Initiative, because you're going to spend $2 trillion as soon as this man gets in office, and yet poor people have not at all gotten any relief. And so I think, over the next few weeks, we need to find where poor people can go to and actually get some financial relief, or who's advocating for that so they can, tap back into some resources. Because psychologically, a lot of people are going through it right now, and you're going to start seeing it in the streets. And so I think we need to, and whatever group that is designed, I wouldn't mind volunteering or helping support, because I just think that we're not overlooking, but I think we're focused on the new issues of the day, and we're missing that we already have 15 murders in the 13 days in this city right here.
Wow.
And I'll hang up on you guys.
Hey, Prince, man, I told you Prince was going to be a good call. Prince, he didn't disappoint. Let me take the police piece first. I'll be quick, and then I know you want to weigh in on the poverty piece. So I absolutely agree. Power Live Free, we held a series of town halls back in the summer and in the fall around the Police Oversight Commission, what it should look like. We heard experts around the country. And I argue that, first of all, this is a part of the defund argument. Take money away, just eliminate internal affairs. Take their $23 million and give it to this commission. And then let them do the role of internal affairs, right? So you're not going to it would be redundant. So let the commission then hire investigators who do what internal affairs is supposed to do, and let them take that role. But I think, like Prince said, every commissioner should be paid a full salary to compensate them, and then that way they're not dependent upon the benevolence of folk like, the FOP.
So let me just say this. It was during the spring that actually Power had a town hall with Senator Toomey, several congressional leaders. We had about 17,000 people attend, that we were addressing the HEROES Act, which was going to be the next CARES Act that was put into place. And we're fighting for provisions in that actually gave direct stimulus money. It would have been additional stimulus money. It would have been money for housing and other things. And we continue to advocate for that at both the federal level. Also, at the state level, we've been fighting for more education, more dollars to come into schools and actually provide different resources to children that are in poverty in Philadelphia right now and in other poor school districts across the state. I think we got to be clear. We actually have been supporting legislation that would have created funds here in Philadelphia for people to be able to access to help cover housing and short term, and we actually stand in agreement that there was a $1.3 billion money left over from the CARES Act in the state of Pennsylvania that they used to cover the budget shortfall for next year instead of putting that money into the hands of Pennsylvanians. In my other show, Solutions, we had State Rep Chris Rabb on that was talking about the fact that the state took that money to cover their budget shortfall for 2021 instead of applying that money and giving it to people that were in need. So we're actually advocating for all those things already at the state, national, and local levels, all simultaneously wanting to keep that up. We have a deep concern about folk that are in poverty and about the resourcing that is not getting into the hands of folk, that far too often is going to the hands of businesses and then not hitting, because Reaganomics, trickle-down economy doesn't work. You actually have to start from the grassroots up. You put money into the hands of the people that are the poorest. They actually turn and they churn the economy because they spend the money. So, I'm often wrestling with the fact that I think the way we operate our economy is backwards. You give money to those that are struggling deepest. They're going to spend it, and they'll churn the economy and get things moving. So they're actually the ones that are producers. I love it when corporations say, we created 10 million jobs. No, actually, the people that buy your products created the jobs. You didn't create the jobs. They did. And so we're very much advocating and continue to look forward to that, to try to do that work.
Man, we spent, I think, almost $500 million in the Georgia runoff races.
Mm-hmm.
Raised almost $500 million in the runoff races.
Mm-hmm.
Is that crazy or what?
How much of that money went in black hands?
Well, my point, though, is just like, I'm looking at the comment there by, I think, Bernice or Benita, that, we can raise money for politics, but we can't raise money for people who are struggling, right? It is just beyond me, how we prioritize these things. And it's like, people are just left to their own. And a part of what we're even witnessing with a lot of this white anger is, while we don't want to talk about it, that, they think we got all of it, but we don't. But a lot of their communities look just like ours.
That's right.
But it's not densely packed together. But a lot of those white forgotten areas look like black forgotten areas. We have more in common talking about socioeconomic than we have that's different. And yet people have played people and their weakness and their hatred and used it against each other. I'm sorry, man. We went over time, but
yes. Sorry, we're all good. Let's wrap up. Well, look, we'll be back tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. to bring you the latest news happenings around Philadelphia and, of course, our opinions. Thank you, Kwesa, for holding down the boards. Thank you, Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler, for doing what you do each and every morning here on the show. Thank you to all of our listeners and callers that came in. Now listen to Wake Up with Word with Solomon Jones. Listen, go out, change the damn world, because if you don't, nobody else will. Peace.
With my face turned to the sun,